Welcome to Marketing Momentum on the Rise, the show where we burn off the noise, fix what's broken in your growth engine, and rebuild with clarity. I'm Sterling Phoenix, and if your funnel's stalled, your message is ghosting your buyers, or your team can't agree on what's actually working, this is the clarity pass you didn't know you needed. Let's go. Most leaders don't fail because they can't set direction. They fail because no one wants to follow them there. Welcome to The Rise with Sterling Phoenix. This is a fierce leadership episode where we cut through the noise and talk about leading with clarity and influence. Today we're breaking down why most leaders fail at influence. Spoiler, it's not about vision or strategy or even authority. It's about how they show up. And once you see the pattern, you know exactly how to fix it. Because here's the reality. Leadership without influence is just management with a bigger title. You can have the position, you can have the authority, and you can have the strategy mapped out in perfect detail. But if people aren't genuinely moved to follow you, if they're complying instead of committing, executing instead of believing, you're not leading. You're just occupying space at the top of an org chart. And that gap between having authority and having influence, that's where most leaders get stuck. And it's costing them momentum and trust and results. So let's fix it. Here's what I see constantly: smart leaders, capable leaders, leaders with clear vision and a solid strategy, but their teams are dragging. Engagement is flat, turnover is high. Their people are doing the minimum, not bringing their best. And when you ask those leaders what's wrong, they'll say things like, oh, people don't seem motivated anymore. I just don't know why they're not getting it. I've communicated that vision a million times. But here's what they're missing. The problem isn't their people. The problem is their influence, or more specifically, their lack of it. Because here's the truth. You can communicate vision all day. You can have the best strategy in the world, and you can have every right to expect people to execute. But if you haven't built influence, if people don't trust you, don't believe in you, don't generally connect to where you're trying to take them, none of that matters. They'll show up, they'll do the work, but they won't bring that discretionary effort you're looking for, the creativity, the commitment, the excitement. And that's the difference between a team that's functional and a team that's exceptional. So let's talk about 3 ways leaders kill their own influence and how to fix each one. Here's the first way I see leaders fail at influence. They confuse authority with actual influence. And this is a critical distinction that most leaders completely miss. Authority is positional. It comes with the title, the budget, and the seat at the table. It's granted to you by the organization. But authority only gets you compliance, not commitment. People will do what you say because they have to, because you're the boss, because there are consequences if they don't. But they won't do it with their full energy. They won't bring their best thinking, and they won't go the extra mile because compliance is transactional. You tell me what I need to do, I'll do that, and I'll get my paycheck. Well, that's not leadership. That's a transaction. Influence is different. Influence is earned. It's built into every interaction, every decision, and every promise kept. It's not about what your title says. It's about who you are when the pressure's on. Do you keep your word? Do you follow through? Do you show up with integrity even when it's inconvenient? Because every time you do, you make a deposit in the trust bank with your team. And trust is what creates influence. Every time you don't, every time you use your authority to override, to force compliance, to pull rank, you make a withdrawal in that trust bank. And here's what happens when leaders lean only on their title. They deplete trust every time they use it. Do this because I said so. Withdrawal. I don't have time to explain. Just execute. Withdrawal. This is non negotiable because I'm the boss. Huge withdrawal. And eventually, the trust account goes negative. And when that happens, you lost influence entirely. So, what's the fix? Stop leading with your title and start leading with your trust. Before you pull rank, before you issue the directive, stop and ask yourself, have I built enough influence that people will move with me because they want to, not because they have to? And if the answer is no, you can't lead on authority. You need to stop and build influence first. And that means keeping your commitments. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Every broken promise is a trust withdrawal. You need to be consistent. Your team needs to know what they're getting from you. If you're unpredictable, they can't trust you. And you need to show up with integrity. Do what you say you'll do. Act in alignment with the values you claim. Make decisions that prove you're not just talking, you're living it. When you do that consistently, you build influence. And influence doesn't require authority. It creates willing followership. And that's the only kind of followership that scales. Here's the second way leaders fail at influence. They talk more than they enlist. Bad leaders sell. Fierce leaders enlist. And that distinction, it changes everything. When you're selling, you're treating people like transactions. Here's my pitch. Here's what I want you to buy. Here's why you should care. It's one directional. It's about convincing. It's about getting people to agree with your idea. And people feel it. They feel like they're being manipulated, like you're trying to talk them into something instead of inviting them into something. And even if they say yes, they're not invested, they're just complying. But when you're enlisting, when you're treating people like true partners, here's the vision, here's why it matters, here's what I need from you to make this real. Let's build it together. It's collaborative, it's about co creation, it's about creating shared ownership so people want to move with you, not for you. And that's where influence lives. In that space where people feel like they're part of something bigger than a task list, where they feel like their contribution actually matters, where they're building with you, not just executing for you. So here's the shift. Stop trying to convince people and start enlisting them. Instead of walking into the room with all the answers and trying to sell your team on the plan, bring them into the process. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Here's the challenge we're facing. I need your thinking on this. How would you approach it? Instead of dictating next steps, create space for ownership. Here's the outcome we need. You know your area better than I do. What's the best way to get there? Instead of positioning yourself as the visionary who has it all figured out, position yourself as the leader who's building something with capable people. I don't have all the answers, but I know if we figure this out together, we'll build something great. That creates enlistment. And here's what happens when you do that. People stop waiting for you to tell them what to do, and they start thinking for themselves. They stop treating work like a job, and they start treating it like a mission they own. They stop giving you compliance, and they start giving you commitment. And that's the difference between a leader people follow out of an obligation and a leader people follow because they believe. Influence isn't about volume or persuasion tricks. It's about creating a sense of shared ownership. And the only way to do that is to stop selling and start enlisting. Here's the third way leaders kill their influence. They make it about themselves. And this is the fastest, most reliable way to lose influence because people can smell self-interest a mile away. You know the leaders I'm talking about, the ones who hoard credit, who make sure everyone knows they were the architect of the win, who can't share visibility without diminishing their own. The ones who control every single decision because they can't let go of being the smartest person in the room. The ones who position themselves at the center of every story, every success, every conversation. And here's what happens when you do that: people stop trusting that you're in it for the mission, and they start assuming you're in it for yourself. And once they believe that, your influence evaporates because influence flows to the leaders who elevate others, not just themselves. Think about the leaders you've respected the most in your career, the ones that you would have followed anywhere, the ones you gave your very best work to, the ones that you still talk about years later. I guarantee you those leaders weren't ones who were hoarding credit. They were the ones who made you feel seen, who celebrated your wins, who created space for you to shine. They were the ones who made it clear through their actions that they were in it for something bigger than themselves, for the mission, for the team, for the greater good. And that's what created influence, not their title, not their authority, their selflessness. So here's the fix: stop centering on yourself. Start centering on the mission and the people executing it. Give credit away. When something goes well, shine the spotlight on your team. Name names. Be specific about contributions. Make it clear that this wasn't you, it was them. Elevate others. Create opportunities for your team to be visible, to lead, to own outcomes. Your job is not to be the star, it's to create more stars. And make decisions that serve the mission, not your ego. When you're faced with a choice, ask yourself, is this the right move for the team and the goal? Or is this the move that protects my position, my reputation, and my comfort? And choose that mission every single time. Because here's the truth: influence comes when your actions prove again and again that you're not in this for yourself, that you're willing to take the hit so your team can succeed, that you're willing to give credit away even when you did the heavy lifting, that you're willing to make the hard call that serves the mission even when it costs you personally. That's what earns influence, not authority, not charisma, integrity in action. And when you lead like that, people don't just follow you, they fight for you. They give you their very best. They trust you with their loyalty because they know that you're not using them just to build yourself up. You're building something together. And that's the only kind of influence that lasts. All right, here's your reset. Before your next conversation where you need influence, not authority, run this check. Ask yourself these three simple questions. Number one, am I leaning on my title or my trust? If you're even thinking about pulling rank, you've already lost. So build trust first. Lead with influence, not authority. Number two, am I selling or am I enlisting? If you're trying to convince, you're selling. Stop. Start enlisting. Create ownership. Build it together. And three, am I centering on me or the mission? If this is about protecting your ego, your credit, or your position, people are going to feel it. Center on the mission. Elevate others. If you flip even one of those, you'll see the response shift immediately. Because influence isn't complicated, it's just rare today. Most leaders won't do the work of building trust, enlisting ownership, or getting out of their own way. But if you will, you'll separate yourself from 90% of the leaders out there, and you'll build the kind of influence that doesn't just get compliance, it creates commitment. Okay, here's the one thing I want you to remember from all of this: influence is never about you, it's about the trust and ownership you create in others. The moment you make it about your authority, your vision, and your credit, you lose. But the moment you build trust, enlist partnership, and elevate your team, you multiply it. And that's when leadership stops being a title and starts becoming a movement. Thanks for listening to The Rise. If today sparked something for you, if you saw yourself in any of these patterns and you're ready to shift, subscribe on Substack and keep your rise in motion. And if you're ready for traction right now, head to fueledbysuccess.com and grab your next step toolkit. I'll see you next time. Clarity, momentum, no burnout. That's